Well, good morning. You're watching Much Ado About Something, and I'm Donna. It's a beautiful fall day out here. It's just beautiful. There's a wind blowing, there's a breeze, the leaves are falling off the trees, and it's just everything that you think fall should be. It is beautiful. I've been out here enjoying some of this beautiful fall day, and I'm going to go in. Today's the day that I'm going to work on my apothecary, my tinctures, and some of the things that I use my herbs for. You see me collecting my herbs in the garden all the time. And I like to give you a view of what I do with those when it comes time to make the products that I use. Now we're back inside, and I'm going to show you a few things that I make. Well, you've probably saw on my videos where I've collected some of the herbs out of my garden. This is Comfrey and a few other herbs that I got out of the garden. And I'm going to show you what I do with these. I've had some Comfrey oil infusing here for quite a few months. This is some Comfrey that I harvested before, and I dried it, and I put it in an oil, fractionated coconut oil. And I infused it so that I can use that oil with all of these herbal comfrey properties infused into that oil when it's time for me to make a salve, or when it's time for me to make an ointment, or just use the oil straight from the bottle for somebody that might need that. Now today I have some basil some comfrey that I have dried out here. And I'm just going to take the scissors and cut this comfrey up into rather small pieces, because I'm going to make an oil infusion with most of this. And I just go ahead and cut it. And the thing about this comfrey is I make a comfrey salve from this, and I love it. The salve is good. It's good for healing. It has all the properties of that comfrey in this salve. It's made with fractionated coconut oil and beeswax and comfrey. And I think there might be some thymol in here, a few drops. But I make this comfrey salve. I have a video on that if you'd like to check out on my channel and find that video and watch it. I make a comfrey salve. Now, I do take some leaves and grind these up very, very fine and into a powder, a baby powder consistency. And I use it in making salve. And if you are going to use the whole herb in making your salve, you want to make sure that you grind this up as fine as you possibly can. Now, there shouldn't be any grit, there shouldn't be any dirt on your leaves. Before you dry them, make sure they're clean. And then when you hang them up to dry or lay them out to dry or dehydrate them, however you dry your leaves, but you want to make sure that they're clean. Well, and when they're dry, you'll feel in there. Comfrey has like a little bit of a, I want to say a little bit of a, maybe a texture to it. It's a little bit of a texture. So you want to make sure when you're got this dry and you're processing it to using your salve, you want to be sure that you get this as fine, finely ground as you can. You can use a coffee grinder. You can use a mortar and pestle, which really works because, that's probably getting it as finely ground as you can possibly get it in there. Is just grinding and grinding until you get this stuff to a very, very fine powder. But you don't want anything that's gritty or too big. You don't want any of those pieces in your ointment if you're making a comfrey salve. And this is very important when you're processing your dried comfrey to use it in the future. If you're going to use it in your salve directly, if you're not going to use an oil infusion, this is an oil infusion, This is some comfrey that I've dried previously. When it was dry, I cut it up in here and I poured oil on it. You want to make sure your herb is dry when you make an oil infusion. You don't want any water in here because you know oil and water don't mix. And you don't want any kind of moisture in there that's not, you know, water would be more susceptible to mold and to bacteria and things than this oil is. And that's why you want to keep the water out, the moisture out of your oil infusion. So this is dry comfrey that I have poured oil over and let it sit for probably 3 months. And I've made this comfrey oil infusion. And what I'm going to do with that oil infusion is I am going to use it when I make my salve. A basic recipe for my salve is 1 cup of carrier oil, which in this case would be fractionated coconut oil with comfrey infused in. So to make this comfrey salve from this oil, I would measure out 1 cup of this strained oil, and I would take 1 ounce of beeswax, and I would melt that in a little double boiler, and then pour it into my salve container, and that would be my salve, making it from a comfrey oil infusion. Now I have a video where I make comfrey salve, and I'm using the whole ground comfrey leaves. And I just grind these comfrey leaves to the smallest powder that I can possibly get them. And I put that powder, instead of using the oil infusion, I use 1 cup of fractionated coconut oil and 1 ounce of beeswax. I melt that together, and then I use 4 ground leaves of comfrey, ground to as fine a powder as I can possibly get them, out to the consistency of baby powder. And I put that in the salve, and then I pour it into the containers. But if you get a chance, watch the video on how to make comfrey salve, and it'll give you an idea of why I harvest, dry, and keep this comfrey. Why I grow this comfrey, dry this comfrey, and use it. I don't think after using this salve, if we could even be without it. That's how much we depend on the salve for burns, minor burns, scrapes, you know, all kinds of things, little scratches. And the comfrey, you can even make a poultice out of these leaves and wet it with, you know, oil and use that as a compress to go over your wounds. In fact, comfrey has such healing properties. It's been proven to heal bones. Now, I'm not a doctor, and I'm not an herbalist. I'm a person that has used comfrey and loves it, loves its properties, knows what this herb can do, researched it. I did my own research, and I use it accordingly to our family's needs, to our personal needs, and that's what you need to do. Your health issues, your circumstances may be different from mine, so you want to be sure to research anything you use. Research this herb and find out the proven properties of this herb and what it can do for you. It's well worth harvesting. It's well worth preserving and using. Now, once I get my herb all cut up and make my oil infusions, I'll be straining this oil out into this bottle that I've saved. This is a repurposed bottle. It's an avocado oil bottle. I use avocado oil. And so I'm just going to get the strainer. I'm just going to get the strainer and put it over this little funnel that I've got in this bottle. And I'm going to strain out this comfrey oil infusion into this avocado bottle. So basically what I'm doing is just separating the oil, the infused oil from the comfrey herb that's packed in this jar. Now, by allowing this to infuse for anywhere from a month to, I wait at least 3 months. I like to wait at least 3 months before I use the oil. You can see the nice green color. This was a clear fractionated coconut oil when I made this infusion. And by letting it sit, you can see the green properties of the comfrey has infused into the oil. Now, I'm not going to throw away this comfrey that I've strained out because it still has plenty of properties. So I'll probably cover that with oil and get another infusion out of it and use those leaves for a poultice. Now, that doesn't give me a whole bottle, but it gives me quite a bit of comfrey oil. And I'm going to go ahead and put this little thing that came in this bottle back on because it helps the lid to seal better. And you know, this is a recycled bottle, so I love the opaque olive green color of this bottle. It'll keep out light. It'll keep my oil lasting longer. It'll keep it from deteriorating. Now, I've gone to all this trouble to grow this herb, to harvest this herb and to dehydrate it. And I have plans to use it. So I want to use it in the best way possible and get the most use out of it that I can for all of the effort that I've put into it. Now, I've labeled this comfrey oil with the name and the date of what's in this bottle, and that'll help me when I go to use it. Now, in this, I just use this regular ball jar that you can get at most any places, and I use this lid, which is not the highest quality lid. You can get better lids. You can get this that's supposed to be more airtight than the white ones. They're more expensive, of course, and now they have these sealer jars, and you can also use those. Those are beautiful and effective. And, of course, you can buy the jars, the ball jars that are amber. And here's even some purple ones that would keep light out of your oil infusions and off of your herbs when you store them in the time frame that you're infusing them. So that's something to keep in mind when you're growing the herbs that you want to infuse and make oil infusions from. How are you going to store them? And so there's choices that's available. Of course, you cannot. These things are more expensive. These things here, and the clear container, of course, is not as expensive. Of course, they've gone up. There is some expense incurred. These are more expensive. You get less of them, and you pay more, but they serve a different purpose. For long-term oil infusions, I would recommend those amber or dark-colored jars. You don't have to buy them. You can save them. Like I was saying, I saved this bottle that I will store my comfrey oil infusion in for making salves in later use. It's a recycled bottle. So any bottle that's amber or dark-colored, you want to save that because you can use that later on. Now, this is MCT oil. You can buy it different qualities. It's a fractionated coconut oil is what this is. And, of course, this is just plain fractionated coconut oil, and it's organic. I bought that at Costco, and it's quite a bit in there. Let's see how many ounces it has. It has 40 ounces. So that's a pretty good-sized bottle. I think I gave $13 for that, but it's been a little while. It may have gone up since. So that's a good oil to use for your oil infusions. Some people like to use olive oil and other oils, and that is completely up to you. Use the oil of your choice. The reason I choose the organic coconut oil or the MCT oil is because of the properties that has. I like the fact that it's clear and I can see what's going on with my herb infusion when I pour it out. I like the fact that it has antibacterial properties, and just in general, I like to use it. That's my oil of choice, but of course you can use whatever oil you choose to infuse your herbs. Well, I'm going to go ahead and continue to cut up my comfrey that I've got here. I know you don't want to see me do that. That would be a boring task to watch me cut this comfrey up all day. But that's what I'll be working on inside today, is getting some of these herbs prepared so that I can keep them and use them for the next year, the upcoming year. I'll be making the plans, seeing what I need to make more of. You know, the oil infusions, they're not something you can make overnight. It takes a little bit of time. It takes time for all the goodness that's in these herbs to infuse into the oil that you'll be using. So that means you have to make it ahead. It's not something you can do on the spur of the moment. If you decide, oh, I want to make comfrey, you at least have to have dried comfrey leaves to do that. So as you harvest or buy your herbs, keep in mind your uses and what you plan to do with those, and about how long it's going to take you to get these things dried out so that you can use them in the recipes that you've decided that you want to use them in. If that be a tea or a salve, oil infusion, or a tincture, whatever it might be, whatever plans you might have for your herbs, you want to plan ahead so that they'll be there for you when you need them. It's not a spur-of-the-moment kind of thing. It's a little bit of planning involved so that you'll have ready when it comes time for you to use your herbs. Well, I hope this has helped you a little bit. I just wanted to share with you. What I was doing today, what I do with my comfrey oil infusion after it's finished. I go ahead and make a comfrey oil with that so I can use it later in my salves, and even straight out of the bottle. Comfrey oil is something you can use out of the bottle to help scratches and different aches and pains, different healing things. Well, I thank you for joining me today. Until next time.